Okay, let's call the Fire District Board meeting to order for September 19th. Would you all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We have the roll call, please.
Yes, ma'am. Aldrich.
Here.
Beckman.
Here.
Fox. Here. Zerflank.
Here.
Phelps.
Here.
Pullen.
Here.
And Miller.
Okay, thank you. I don't know where Aaron is. Would you please silence your cell phones and please don't text during the meeting. It's against the open meetings act. We have approval of the agenda, please.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as it stands.
Second.
Is there any discussion? We have a motion by Phelps and a second by Fox. No discussion. Could we call the vote? All those in favor, please say yes.
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 Opposed? Okay, the agenda stands as it is. Could we have approval of the minutes of the August 15th meeting?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of August 15th.
I'll second it.
A motion by Beckman and a second by Pullen to approve the minutes of the August 15th meeting. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, please say yes.
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 Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. We have public comment on agenda items only. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes. Is there anybody that would like to make any comments in the audience? Okay, thank you. Moving on, do we have requests for payments?
I'll make a motion to make payments of $628,976.55. That's a healthy one.
I'll support.
Okay, is there any discussion?
Yes, there's a question. The extreme auto insurance claim, insurance doesn't cover that?
We're being reimbursed.
Oh, we'll be reimbursed, okay.
Right.
Okay, thank
We
you.
pay it because sometimes insurance companies don't do it. These are people we deal with frequently enough. We want to pay it and then get reimbursed.
Okay,
Or submit it to them.
all right.
We have a $1,000 deductible, so.
Yeah, I figured we had a deduction too. Okay, thank you.
Fire policy and training bulletins for $33.39.90.
I think that's what people.
Yep, that would be Lexipol. So that's the policies, SOPs and SOGs that we have. And a number of departments went with Lexipol around here because of trying to keep up with statute change and Michigan law change. So South Haven, Holland, Grasstuff, we all started going with that. So they also have, like, you'll see Vector Solution. We have their truck program as well. We also have their training program. So there's different divisions that we have through that company.
Is there any other discussion? Can we have a roll call vote, please?
Yes, ma'am. Phelps.
Yes.
Beckman.
Yes.
Aldrich.
Yes.
Fox.
Yes.
Zerflank.
Yes.
And Pullen.
Yes.
Okay, 6-0, Madam Chair.
Okay, moving on. Pete, can we have a financial report, please?
The revenue side, the taxes won't be collected until after the 1st of December. We're pretty healthy on the grants and cost recovery that we've done so far, only 3 months into the season. And then the expenses, I mean, it's just typical things right now. The big ticket items are at $600,000. I think $400-some thousand is the final payment on the new Comfort/engine. And I think overall, being this soon into the budget, I think we're doing great shape, and I think it's just the annual bills that usually come, that are the big ticket percentage of the budget used are just the annual bills that come usually like once or twice a year. I don't know if anybody has any questions on any particular line items or.
Didn't see anything that stood out.
Anybody?
Did you is bright, you had to wear sunglasses to do it.
Oh, I don't, because I can see with these, but I don't have my other glasses. At least I can read the numbers are too small.
I get it.
Yeah.
It's Peter too for phone. Okay, financially, it sounds like we're in great shape.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll move on to item 9, the fire chief's comments. Brad?
All right, thank you. So the end of August shows the stats, and we're up, we're down about almost 4% in call volume from last year, but still a 2.2% increase compared to the same time last year. Response times are still under 7 minutes, which is always terrific. We have a lot of delays on the highway with the single-lane construction, so that attributes to increasing that response time. Other pertinent stuff, overlapping calls, left-hand corner down there. We're running over 40% overlapping calls. Those of you that are new to the audience, overlapping call is a call that happens immediately upon another call. So you have to respond to both calls, so that's resource allocation of personnel, splitting them up. Pretty demanding. It's not uncommon to have 3 calls at one time. So, had some really crazy car accidents on the highway. Trucks that were tangled in guardrails that had to be cut out. A lot of semi-accidents that have occurred as a result of the highway. So, everything else is pretty much true to the matrix that we usually follow. Time of the day, during the day is the call volume, and day of the weeks, Monday and Saturday, very unusual. So everything else is pretty much standard. No questions? Okay. Moving on, we could jump to the Michigan fatal car statistics. We'll jump back to fire prevention. Oh, we're on fire prevention, we'll just stick with that. Just to give the board and our audience a snapshot of short-term rental inspections, construction plan reviews, that sort of thing, pre-plan updates. Just gives you an idea of what activity has taken place for the month of August. Next up, Michigan fire fatal statistics, 89 deaths and 74 fires. So a 10% increase on year-to-date deaths, not something we like to report, and 10% increase in fires. The rest of it is pretty true. Living room is the #1 cause. People think it's the kitchen. It is not. It's the living room. And for those of us that are males, for some reason we're targeted. So everything else is typical on the fire statistics. Okay, no questions on that. Moving on, our insurance company, Michigan Municipal Risk Management Authority, has a terrific grant program for certifications as well as for other activities, equipment. So I am really proud to share with you that Chris Mantles was the chief author on the Staffing and Command School grant and was able to capture $2,437 reimbursement on Staff and Command School. The next grant award I'm happy to share with you would be Lieutenant Chris Bernardi wrote that. Now Chris is a captain. And we got together as a grant team. The grant team members are Chris Mantles, Chris Bernardi, and myself. We frequently do these together with a chief author rotating. And we wrote this grant for a monitoring system for water levels. As you know, we had the unpleasant experience of having a boat sink from a number of things that failed. And this vessel monitoring system would mitigate that. Any questions?
Chief,
Yes,
I remember last month there was like 5,000, there was a grant for 5,000 or something. Do we keep it running just for yucks?
yes, Eric, our statistician, keeps a nice tally on the grants, and I can bring it up on the next time report. Grants and cost recovery, change monthly. Nothing else? That concludes my chief comments, Jane.
Okay, thank you, Greg. We have no unfinished business, we'll move on to new business. We received a nice donation, from the Becken family, and we have Dave Becken with us here this afternoon. Would you like to present the grant, or talk about the grant?
I've already presented it, actually. If you want me to go up and give it to you, right?
May I share? Okay, so, nephew, Dave, go on. So what do you have to say? You first.
It was, Jerry just wanted to make sure with the money he accumulated over his 97 years of life, that he wanted to make sure the fire department got some. And he put aside so much, and he's instructed myself and my brother to make sure you get it, so we hired the Community Foundation of Holland and Zealand to handle all the funds, and you will get a check for the next 5 years of basically what you've got now. It's the accumulation of 5-year funds, so.
Nice.
Thank you, Dave.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. I was so excited when I got the phone call and David shared what happened.
And it's up to you guys, the board, to decide how you want to, use it. You can use it however you want it, but it has to be for fire use. Which he wanted to make sure the fire department got the money, so.
Good.
No parties, no nothing like that.
You can't do the party anymore?
No parties.
Well,
So enjoy it, not enjoy it, but do what you do with it. Enjoy the next about 4 years.
Yeah.
The check will be every August for the next 4 years.
Thanks, Dave.
Thank you,
any,
Dave. The chief and I have discussed a little bit about what we're gonna do with the money, and we'd like this year to use some of the money to stock our new fire truck. I know Jerry would appreciate that.
He would.
And we'd like to mention his name on the side of the truck
Oh, that'd be great.
as well. I think Jerry was a long-standing fireman, he was long-standing on the board.
Well,
He,
the family was quite involved with for quite a few years, and not just my father, my uncles, Jerry, and I think there's been a Becken on the fire department. Scott probably tell you for 50, 60, 70 years.
yeah. Well, we appreciate Jerry.
Any way we could do some kind of press release for letting the community know? I
I,
think it's, unless he didn't want it.
no,
No.
No, he would.
unless directed otherwise, we were gonna compose with the board's blessing a media release, and then we were gonna bring Dave back in and do a presentation. I thought we would have Jerry's award up there in the photo, along with like a check,
Yeah.
like we've
Yeah.
done up
Yeah.
there, and then officially thank the family for this.
Maybe even get a picture of the new marking on the truck.
We can do that.
Yeah.
Great idea.
If that's okay with the board,
Yes,
That's fine.
definitely so.
I can work on that and work on
Yeah,
it.
it's real hard to adjourn a meeting without Jerry.
Yeah, no.
'cause He always did the motion to adjourn, so,
Every meeting.
every meeting, so,
Nice Ken, Dave. Thank you.
thank you.
He wasn't.
Moving on to item B, the Cow Hill Yacht Club donation. Greg, you wanna?
Yeah, so Jeff Slater received a phone call from Jeff, who helped organize the Cow Hill Yacht Club Venetian weekend, and presented us with a $500 check for the fire department. So I'm going to share that all with you.
And then moving on to C, Chris Gargano has decided to retire from the fire department after 36 years of service. We want to thank Chris for all of her service and wish her well in her retirement.
Chris, can you show the plaque that we...
Should we wait until after her ceremony so she doesn't see it in the video?
Okay.
That's all right.
Now that she knows there's going to be one.
Great. Now that we spoiled the surprise.
Yeah, we're going to have a get-together. We'll let the board know October 2nd is their last day, so.
Okay.
Okay, moving on to item D, thought we'd start a discussion. We're gonna have to up the ante, in our budget for special events. We have to pay our people to attend a special event and help with a special event. And, there's a lot of special event, and it's really starting to tax our staff, which we're getting a little short of.
Jane, just
as
to
well.
clarify this, we have to pay them, I mean, I remember, Mike Block volunteering for the football games,
Mhm.
and it was an issue,
Right.
because he needed to be paid, was it a labor law or something?
Labor law, if we ask him to do something that commensurates with his duties, that is his normal position, firefighter EMS, which he was an EMS standby, we have to pay him. We can't expect him to do it for nothing. And he did not want to get paid, and I said, then donate it to the school. That's how that started. I can finally convince this board we're violating labor law.
Well, I think that's what the public needs to understand, that this isn't something that a money grab at all. We need to pay these people. They can't do it for nothing, and we can't let them do it for nothing.
That's right.
Well, there are some people that aren't getting paid. You know, I'm not getting paid for it, and I'm doing it, so my wife helps out as well. But this is just an awareness thing that
Right.
was requested. This isn't pointing anything. And there's not a lot of other agencies that come up with people. This time of the year, it's tough to get 8 or 9 people on such a large event like Mount Baldhead Challenge, pretty broad geographically challenged area, and you gotta have people all over the place because of the different rates of speed of the race. So, you know, we've been doing Venetian and 4th of July for a long time.
Has doing the safety aspect increased the need for more help, or is it about the same as usual?
No, I think where we came into a little more, for example, let's take the sidewalk sale. Sidewalk sale, we had a certain amount of duty crew assigned to that. And what happened is there was no parking. So that created voids, that parking spaces that normally would have been filled, we put one car, we didn't, the event organizers, they put one car in the spot where you could drive right around the car. Served no purpose. So we brought in more people. I came in, brought in 2 other staff members to bring vehicles down to position, so to block that off. Let's take kids' race for Mount Baldhead Challenge. I will not be part of commingling vehicle traffic with kids in the roadway. Well, that takes a lot of vehicles. City did a great job bringing in event organizers, helpers of Mount Baldhead Challenge to have their cars in there, and then we filled any shortage. So Baldhead Challenge isn't the best example because it takes so many people to cover that, and a lot of different equipment. You need equipment to go in Oxbow that you can't take an ATV in. It's a one-wheel machine. You need the mule to go up in the dunes. So we staff things like Music in the Park. That wasn't just one Music in the Park. That was several. So some events there were more people, some there weren't.
Where does the police department come in?
They were there.
For safety,
They were
should
there.
they be having a lot more
Well,
people in
they
also?
can't put 4 or 5 or 6 police cars in Saugatuck when they have the whole county to do. As it was for the Labor Day walk, we didn't have enough vehicles to protect walkers. And I was on the phone trying to get everybody to help out. And we had 7 vehicles there, and the county had 2 scheduled. They brought 2 more, so that was 4. And then Douglas gave me 3. It wasn't my event.
No, that's why it's not our event.
Nothing to do with it. I have nothing to do with any of these, other than, you know, it goes to the fire department to provide a comment on what do you want to do to protect the people. So we had to scramble to get vehicles out there. Well, the bridge, well, it was a long way, so that was one that, you know, you have to pay people for that. You didn't pay Vicki or me, but we still did it.
It just seems like we're doing all the work, rather than maybe the police department.
I guess you can take that to the other cities.
I think there's a fine line between expecting a little bit for your tax dollar, as opposed to, like, some of these things are done for profit. You know, everyone loves a parade, we all pay taxes, you know, some of this we can eat up.
Right.
But some of it's getting out of hand, and where do we draw the line?
We
Well,
try to
and
do-
that's exactly
is the
my
big
point,
question.
is we have to talk about this getting out of hand. We're putting way a lot of our budget into these events
so,
that
too.
aren't our events, so.
And, you know, and keep in mind, this is not any truck cost or any fuel cost, none of that. And this certainly doesn't include, you know, event preparation. Eric and I have been tracking that because it's extensive. What we want to do is do proper planning so the event's seamless. And there's a lot of events, and they're all worthwhile. I think what you run into is there's so many. I mean, there's like 20 of them. There's so many events that it gets to be taxing. But I'm not here to complain, I'm just here to just, you know, because I was asked, well, what is this stuff costing?
Well, I mean, you look at the 4th of July parade, and everyone loves that, and, you know, it's all for the city, but then you look at a sidewalk sale, and who's profiting from that? You know,
Yeah, that's a profit
I
maker.
think that's one of the first things
4th of July.
that should be on the list, which is to set up what the standards are for fire district supported events. And if it falls outside that, then I would guess that the sidewalk sale and maybe music in the park and some of these other things fall outside that. You know, there are people benefiting from music in the park who run businesses in town. I mean, who are getting advertising and maybe they're paying, I don't know. But we need to have a clear distinction so that when time comes, when these permit applications come through, you can say, I'm sorry, you know, we estimate that the fire district's expense cost to you for this event is going to be this and such based on prior years. That's coming to you. And then for, you know, as you say, for 4th of July or what have you, or Venetian maybe, I don't know, those fall into the other category of support awards. The other thing I think we should do, and maybe we do it and I just haven't paid attention, but on our annual budget or year-end review or whatever, this ought to be on there.
Right, well, that's why I'm,
I mean, so that, to your point, so that people see that these things cost
I think you
money.
need categories. You need nonprofit organizations that have things that I think are worthwhile.
And that was one of the benchmarks the board set for us. And when we look at that, we see nonprofit, like Music in the Park was marked as a nonprofit.
Right.
So we didn't charge for that. Oxbow wasn't, it was for profit. They were right up front. We billed them for that. So everything was marked.
and they pay.
Yeah, they paid. Everything was marked a nonprofit. So I was limited. We had one from Saugatuck Center of the Arts last year, the year before that, we were able to invoice for. But they're all very worthwhile events, don't get me wrong. You know that. We're not here to...
What about the cities paying for their own? Paying us? The cities be the event coordinator. And is it
I don't think
okay?
there's an event host who applies, and you know, I think the city, I don't want to speak for the city, but we kind of look at it and say, well, what are you going to provide? Every one of these is carefully discussed with police. What can you do, what can we do? Well, I don't have, for example, they wanted to staff one event. The same day, 14 deputies were at Elgin Fair.
Yeah. So they didn't
And,
have any to bring
you know,
down here.
holiday weekend, there's probably 4 events planned for holiday weekend.
It just seems like the city should be the event coordinator, and they should be paying us, and they should be paying the police department.
Well, I think they figure the property millage is already paying us. It would really seem to be more of an event host, you know, people that would pay for it, but, you know,
It seems like we're the
agencies,
ones running all the events.
we're not running, beg your pardon, we're not running anything. What we are is, we were asked to approve, we make recommendations. What we are is, we've been providing the most resources. That is an accurate statement.
Okay.
And I have tried and tried to get additional resources, so we are not shouldered with this.
Okay.
Because we're working every holiday,
Yeah.
what other people are not. And that's what I can bring to this board. I've had to, because I don't have enough help to
Yeah.
bring in vehicles. So here I am. What do? I got Mount Baldhead Challenge, or I have another event, let's just call it nameless. And I have trucks sitting in the station along with a lot of other agencies. So do I sit at home on a holiday and put up wooden barricades to protect somebody? Or do I try to protect the public, which is my obligation to do, with something you can't drive through? And that's what I'm going to do until you tell me differently.
Okay. No, I have no problem with that.
It's
Just
very
think we can do a
frustrating,
lot more.
believe me, when there's other agencies, you know, I hope they hear this, why wasn't the school, why didn't we get 3 buses from the school? I had $1 million worth of, almost $2 million worth of vehicles out there.
I thought Dr. Travis agreed to let us use buses.
But then the event organizer didn't have the buses there.
Didn't ask them,
Oh.
and the event was the
So it
school.
wasn't your job to ask them?
That's not my job, that's not my job.
Okay,
It's
so-
a city permit.
Okay, so
It's
you
not
need
my
X amount
permit.
of vehicles, you go to the city and say, I need X amount of vehicles.
No,
What we do as the event host is responsible, the way the city has done it, the last couple of them have been great, because the city said, okay, what can you provide? We can provide 8 cars for Mount Baldhead Challenge.
Okay.
Okay, we need 6 more vehicles. So the county had to get together and said, what can you provide, what can we provide? So then we have Blue Star Highway, a corridor that none of us, public safety-wise, felt comfortable with cars driving, with vehicles with cones blocking the people. So what do? So we got together and said, okay, I'll pull in everybody I can, and I'll put fire vehicles out there. It wasn't enough to do everything. So then the county picked in 4. So it was kind of a collaborative effort with 3 agencies. Well, there are more other agencies here.
So who could have, who should have, or who could have called the school?
My opinion?
The city.
The event
My
organizer.
opinion is, the event organizer should have
Yeah, it's
asked
what I'm
the
saying,
school
yeah.
for a couple of buses,
Yeah. because
because that would have helped, and the city, and I don't speak out of turn, I get nothing, you know,
Well, that's
the city.
something, you know, in the future, say to them, we may need some buses, it's your job.
It was all in our report in February, all the resources were there. I called Dr. Travis, nobody asked him for any buses. I called Richland Bombard, has anybody talked to you about your resources? In Douglas, so that we do this together as a community. And Rich
Well,
said he
it
never
sounds
got
like
a
it's a little
call.
more work, not necessarily for our end of it.
I started it in March.
From their end of it.
And the report was not allowed to be presented. So,
And I think we're getting off topic here about
Right.
the payroll, that
Pursuing the
this
budget.
board should be more concerned about the payroll. I understand the other issues that you're going through, but
So-
we need to address
The payroll, absolutely.
$14,556,000.
Where'd you get that?
Down the bottom on page 19.
Last page of the packet.
Oh, okay, thank you.
But I don't think we're gonna solve it overnight.
No, this was really an awareness thing, this wasn't really, but there's all, this doesn't just happen. We brought this up in wintertime.
We've been
You
talking-
got buses, you got DPW, you got the
Talking
sheriff,
about this for a
you got
long time.
Douglas. I tried, and all it falls on is, the fire department. So,
As I say, that we can take steps right away to decide, to either form a small group that decides what are the standards we're applying for fire district cost-supported resources for an event. And that should, I would assume that's gonna be a list of no more than 4 or 5 questions that the event organizer has to answer. And based on those answers, it'll decide whether they're gonna get money for that or whether they've gotta figure it out for themselves.
Have we been reimbursed for any of this?
the only one that was reimbursed was for the private event at Oxbow. That was the only one.
Okay.
We're really caught between a rock and a hard
Right.
place. Because we have to make sure the public is safe.
Yes, yeah.
And that entails planning, money, vehicles, some good solid thought, and some coordination, and we seem to be lacking.
Do they have to get your approval,
Yeah.
the city?
We're making recommendations to the city, this is what you need. When...
But they don't have to have your approval for a permit.
We don't issue the permit,
No,
they
they
do.
don't.
When we had Mount Baldet challenge us, or ask us about that, I just said, we can't be part of any organization that's gonna put kids, it was bad enough with the adults running in there. You know, ask Deputy Flockstrup. We had our hands full just trying to keep people from driving in. Because, you know, you trap people in there, they wanna get out of there. We had cars that actually wanted to drive when we had all those kids in the street. We can't do that.
No.
You know, nobody wants to say no to these events because, you know, kind of area is defined for it. So what do you do when you have a Halloween adult parade? Then there's another parade that's being proposed. Then there's Glow in the Park on Friday night. One's in one city, instead of using downtown Douglas for everything, it's all over. So all weekend, you gotta staff it.
Well, that's not entirely true. They've changed Glow in the Park. Glow in the Park is in 2 weeks. It's the 1st of October now. Halloween is at the end of October.
So I stand corrected, it's different weekend, but...
Now
So
we've
it's 2
spread it
events.
out.
Yeah.
Now we've spread it out more.
Yeah.
But it's still 2 events, and it's still a lot of money to staff.
Right.
And to keep people safe. We need to keep people safe. I mean, Lincoln Park never thought anything would ever happen in Lincoln Park,
That's
and
true.
look what happened.
I agree with all that.
And when, the minute you start saying it'll never happen here, is when it's gonna happen here.
Yeah.
And
I agree.
An emergency management director in Allen County, when we start taking public streets and putting people in it, everyone, city, we all try to do the best we can with it. And like, for the example, the sidewalk sale, you know, the city it was great, we shut everything down so we didn't have cars driving, that was a pretty big area.
Yeah.
Well, then, we had people, well, I wanna go.
yeah.
Well, how do we know friend from foe? So we literally have to escort them out. I had to bring more people down here just to staff that. So it's, you know, hey, we get it, you've gotta go to work, or you've gotta go to another place and do a delivery. So that took manpower down there. So how do we do the sidewalk sale? 4 people. There was nobody else helping us down there. I did what I had to do, because there were cars stuck in there that needed to go. And plus, there weren't enough vehicles blocking everything. You drive right around. So those are the things, you know, I sit there and debate it. Who am I gonna call?
Ghostbusters.
So I called the station, I said, shut down the station and come on down there.
Well, you shouldn't be shutting down the station.
I had to empty the station out of staff.
Yeah.
And then we respond from downtown. Well, you know, all those businesses, we want them to have the sidewalk sale.
Mm-hmm.
What was an oversight was, when there was no parking created down there, then that creates a larger opening.
What do you mean a larger opening?
Well, instead of cars parked to the curb, they're no longer there because they're not allowed in there. So then there's a car parked in the center. Well, anybody can drive right around that. Well, how do you fill the void?
Okay.
A barrier,
Okay.
concrete, a vehicle. We even had the city clerk bring her car down because we had no other resources.
Well,
So
I
those
think-
are the challenges we get.
I have to go along with you, no matter what this costs us or what is, our main objective is safety. For our town, for all our people, for us, all our people. That's our main objective.
Right. And that's what we were trying to contribute to, along with the city and along with the sheriff, you know, to the extent possible. And the volunteers have been great, but, you know, there's only so many cars you can get from some of the volunteers. And we have to make sure they move the car at the appropriate time. We had some hiccups at the kids' race. So all that spells into, you've got to regulate it. I was gonna work at Mount Baldet Challenge from 7:30 to 10. I didn't leave till 12:30. Why? I had to be incident commander.
How much space did you have blocked off for that kids run?
I don't know, there's a map.
Was it
Yeah.
a circle going all the way downtown and back to Mary?
They started at
Right?
Hoffman Street and went down Butler to Mary or Main, I don't remember.
There was, I just found it quite an extensive run for little kids. There was little tiny kids in there.
We got a pretty nice track at the high school.
Yeah, and why not put them on the track rather than,
Around the building.
We don't know. And then you have two starting places, and not to be
Yeah,
critical, just
yeah.
then we ran into a problem with the police calling us saying, we have people on Park Street on a blind curve that are at risk of getting hit.
Maybe they should move that run from downtown out to the church on Wiley and keep it out, away from town.
yeah.
Are the downtown businesses benefiting from this? I doubt it.
No, not at
The
that
only thing
hour.
that's happening is they're taking up frickin' parking spaces.
Well, in that hour of the morning, I had 3 people at my end who wanted to leave, and they're stuck there. And one of them just got in their car and left, drove around the barricades and left. And I'm like, how do you stop somebody?
Mount Baldet challenges are all very notable. They, you know, benefits boys and girls clubs, that's all.
I'm not saying don't do it, I'm just saying leave it on that side of the river.
Yeah, but you're talking about the kids, right?
The kids can run around the church. I mean, let's not get
Come on
into
around
that.
the park.
They wanna
I
make
got a
them
million
part of the-
ideas and no one
I
listens.
think they want to make them part of the challenge, which brings them downtown.
Like park.
Not necessarily. Why?
I think we still gotta figure out this payroll thing.
Yeah, I do.
I think the other thing is another huge issue for a whole different ballgame, but we need to look at the 501Cs or whatever they are, the nonprofits, for-profit, and figure out how we charge people, if we charge them.
We've had that before, I brought that at, that one of the fireworks guys said it was a nonprofit and there was no 501c3.
It has to if it's a nonprofit.
So,
Well, we could look that up real quick.
Yeah, do that.
Okay. Let's move
Okay.
on.
Well, thank you for all that information.
yeah, sorry.
Just something to noodle around in your brain and see what we can come up with. Okay, we have a thank you in our correspondence.
Yeah, we got 59 letters from the Saugatuck Middle School from when we staffed the Labor Day Bridge Walk. So it's really cool to go through them all,
Well, that was nice.
thanking us.
Moving on, we have public comment again. Anybody want to make a comment? Fire board comment, Stacy?
No, I don't have anything.
Eric?
No, I just want to thank the Becken family. I was on this board with Jerry for a
Long
long time and learned a lot from him, and thanks.
I'd just like to underscore Eric's thing on action to address how we look at those that funding for the special event. I mean, it was 2 years ago when we cut the number of special events to begin with. And, I mean, clearly, people expect a good number of our community-wide things to be supported with their tax dollars that come through here, and that's fine. But all those on the list aren't that.
No.
I mean, I love Dave Eiley too, but Eiley's car show doesn't qualify. Right? I know it's only $300, but everyone counts, and you need to put a brake on these things, or they just keep growing. So I don't think we should sit on our hands on that one.
Okay, True?
I'd like to thank the chief for all the information, and I'd like to thank the Beckman family for their donation.
Welcome. I got nothing.
Well, I'd like to thank the Beckman family,
Yeah.
and I always enjoyed Terry. He always had that sense of humor that was hard to catch sometimes, but he was
He's
a
always
great
there.
guy. Yeah. He gave me a bad time when I came on the board, as I was the first woman to ever be on the board, and I just didn't belong there.
You came in kinda hard.
Thank you, Mr. Phillips. Okay, with that, I will take a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn at whatever time it is.
I'll support.
5:40.
We have a
Short and
motion
sweet.
from Holmes, support from
Aldrich.
Aldrich, yeah, that's it.
Just for Jerry, yeah, two women do the adjournment just for Jerry.
Jerry can do it by himself, but
Jerry did it by himself.
Oh my God, look at all these women on the board.
You say, let's get out of here.
That's not what he said.
Oh, he did several times.
Yeah.
Okay, we are adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.